Welcome to my gift guide for people that like cooking. So I'm going to try and go through about 30 items. These are principally going to be things that I own and like. On this channel I cook family favourites and my versions of copycat recipes, so if that sounds good, check out my channel for new videos every single Sunday. Everything that I mention will be in the description box below, and if you click on the links you will be supporting this channel. Now, as I said, this list is going to be things that I own, like and use on a regular basis rather than being some hypothetical list or whatever's trendy this year. And I've split the list into 5 sections. That's preparation, that's gadgets, that's homeware, that's what I'm calling gifts, and content creation for anyone that is an aspiring content creator of cooking on YouTube. Okay, so I'm pulling back the curtain and you're going to see a little bit of what I do. So every cook needs a couple of knives. Now I think you only need a couple. You don't need a whole block of 25 different knives for every single thing. You can have just a couple that do very specific things. Now I like these Nikiri style knives, these Japanese style, rectangular ones. You can use them for chopping. Now I actually use this for pretty much everything. I use the chef's knives, and I just like the fact that it's big, it's chunky, it looks pretty cool. And the truth of the matter is, this wasn't an expensive one, but I've been using it for a few years. It's by Mercer. It is decent, right? A secondary knife that I use is a carving knife. Okay, a carving knife, you'll see this is pretty decent. It's got these perforations across the knife. It's a bit bigger, so I can use it for slicing and carving, which is really useful. Now in combination with this, I've got a really substantial fork. Okay, and this is for assisting me when I'm chopping big pieces of meat. Okay, so you can stick this in your joint and you can really carve it and get nice decent slices because you've got this substantial piece of kit. Next are some actually useful tools. The first is a speedy peeler. This is by Oxo. This is my favorite one that I've ever used. The grip's great, and it just cuts them so quick. Now it is very, very sharp, and I have actually cut my fingers on this and my nails, but it's just so useful. It's great, and it's better than these really, really cheap ones, and this is still quite cheap, but it's decent, right? Similarly, you've got the microplane. This is absolutely brilliant for garlic. There's nothing better out there, because what you can do is you can get your garlic and you can run it across the microplane, and what happens is you get a paste. You don't get chunks, you get a paste, and when you put it into anything you're cooking, it just blends away. You don't get those bitty bits of garlic. It just adds the flavour. It's great. It is a superb bit of kit. Again, very, very sharp. Okay. Now another thing that I quite like, I think this is, I don't know whether to say this is a gimmicky, but it's basically a large slotted spoon specifically for pasta. Okay, so when you're cooking your pasta, you got your sauce in your separate pans. You can go into the pasta and then you can drop it into your saucepan, and then you can administer the pasta water as you see fit. And because this is like a decent sized spoon, you can get a decent amount rather than the traditional slotted spoons. They're more oval and they only put like a little bit of pasta. So this is super cool as well. Going back to the knives, a knife sharpener. This is like a traditional knife block, whetstone, and essentially you got this on your work surface. It's quite substantial. It is basically a block of stone in a nice wooden plinth, and you kind of wet this, and then you will get your knife and you will like slice it over it. There's loads of videos on YouTube. You can find out the great techniques, and that will keep your knife sharpened for as long as possible. And I just think like this is a cool thing. This is a cool thing. If someone doesn't have one of these, this is quite an unusual thing that they probably wouldn't have thought of. They would have probably thought about, those old school like those things, which are cool. But this is just a cool thing. So going a bit fancy, that is the old pasta machine. This is something that not everyone is going to have. It's quite a substantial thing. You need to have the space for it. But if you like pasta and you like making your own, you know, this is what it's all about. This is a marcato made in Italy. And essentially you've got the main piece here, and then you've got this additional section that you can just slide on. It just slides on, and you can have the different attachments for tagliatelle, spaghetti, whatever. And essentially you make your pasta up, and then you feed it through, and then you just turn the thing, and it kind of, you've probably seen it on TV, you know, or people that like cooking, you know, you see MasterChef, they use them all the time. It's pretty cool piece of kit. Right, so let's move on to some gadgets, okay? So obviously the first one that we'll talk about here is obviously the air fryer. It's a classic. I mean, I suspect that most people out there now have probably got an air fryer, but they're super cool. They're really useful. I've used them. I use mine, I would say, most days, even for just heating stuff up. It's just so handy and so useful. But you can do things that you can't do on some of the other more traditional things. No, it isn't frying, but it's somewhere between frying and baking. And I always say that because it's so, the space is small and it's blown such air at such ferocious speed, you just get a different type of cooking. You can cook some really good stuff, and like things like chicken, like I don't know why you would cook it in any other way rather than the air fryer now, because you can do so many good stuff with wings and thighs and whatever. I've got loads of recipes all about that on the channel. And continuing with the air fryer, there's some really handy and useful tools and bits and pieces that you can get, some accessories. Now these are pretty good. Now these are silicone baskets that obviously you can just drop in there, and it keeps it from, you know, getting dirty, or, you know, if you just wanted to cook something slightly different, it opens up the possibilities of different recipes. But you can get loads of other accessories. Like I've got this rack here, you can see here, and you can stick that in there, and then it comes with these spikes so that you could make like kebabs, and then you've got the ability to then just place them on there and then stick it on there, so it's not resting, it's kind of up and about. Again, it just gives you these possibilities to cook, you know, lots of different things, which is what I like. Another thing that's useful with your air fryer is an oil spritzer, you know, because we're putting stuff into the air fryer and we just want a little bit of oil. You know, get one of these little bottles, again, pretty cheap, and you spray it on rather than pouring on the oil and getting it everywhere. These are really good, nice fine mist. Meat probe. This is something I got as a gift a few years ago. I really like it. I think it's really cool. And essentially, it's just a kind of thermometer. And what you do is you stick it in your meat and then you cook it. But here's the really cool thing. It has an app which connects to this device. So you can see on your screen the temperature. So you can see the temperature of inside the meat, the external temperature of wherever you've put it. It might be in the air fryer. Like I've got a few videos where I've used this in the air fryer for a whole chicken, for a whole gammon joint, whether it's in the oven. And you can select what you're actually cooking, and it will tell you what the internal temperature should be, and then it will constantly monitor it, and then it will give you a notification when it's reached that temperature, so you get the perfect cook. You're not overcooking it, you're not undercooking it. Really decent piece of kit that. I really like it. But alternatively, a cheaper version, you know, something that is really useful for every cook is a thermometer. Okay, so again, pretty cheap bit of kit. It's a digital, and again, you know, it's got a little battery in there. Put it in there, and you can put it inside meat, inside liquid, whatever. Decent. What about a fermentation vessel? These are really cool if you want to start making some fermentation recipes, you know, kimchi, all that sort of stuff. And what's good about these is that it has vents. So when you're fermenting a product, generally what happens is that you need to keep open it to slightly let some of the gas out, so it kind of essentially doesn't explode, right? You've got this that does it for you, this specifically. So you can put it in there, do all your recipe how you want it, and it's ready to go. You can also get these like glass weights that are super cool that you can put inside, and it will weigh whatever it is that the fermented vegetables, whatever that you're creating. So again, this is really good. Again, not too expensive, and again, these little weights again can go with it. I'm going to be talking about a book later that could go with it as well. You could go with some recipes, whatever. Okay, so again, another really cool one there. The essential for any aspiring baker, specifically digital scales. Digital scales, these are like, you can't live without these really. You know, with baking, it's all scientific, it's got to be specific and very accurate. Digital scales, these ones are great because you can put a bowl on it, you can press the button, and it takes into consideration the weight of the bowl, zeroes it in, then you can put stuff in, you can keep zeroing it as you add, so you know exactly what you're adding to your bowl, so your recipe is perfect. This is an LED grow kit, and you can grow vegetables and herbs on it. And you basically, you can see here, it's got these LED lights across the top. There's a timer, and essentially what you do is, you get these pieces, you get like a little grow pad, you put some seeds in there, and then you put them in there. And then essentially what happens is, this is on a timer, the light will come on every single evening for a few hours, intense light. And inside the base, this is filled with water, so there's no real soil, so to speak. And it grows through hydroponics, so water and light. And then you get it grows really, really quickly. And you can have like an ongoing supply of, you know, coriander or basil, all that sort of stuff, maybe some cherry tomatoes. It's a really cool thing. I've had this for a few years and I've tried it a few times over the years, and it's a fun thing. It is a fun thing to do. So one of the most useful tools in the kitchen is this multi-tool, where you have this base unit with the power, it plugs in, and then you have these attachments that you can just attach into, and you can blend things. I use this one probably the most, and I can put it into a glass vessel and blitz up all types of food, or I can just put it into my saucepan, blend up sauces and curries and soups and that sort of thing. You've got other attachments such as a whisk, which can come in handy every now and again, but also, which is really cool with this one, it actually comes in with this like mini chopping bowl. So it actually has a little chopper there. You put it in there, you add the attachment on the top, and it blitzes it like a kind of mini food processor. So it kind of saves space. Like, yeah, it's not massive, but it's a really handy device. And this all came in as one tool, which I really, really like. Last thing with the gadget, I'm going to say an Amazon Alexa. You know, probably most people have got them, but the reason why I like them is that you can set timers and all that sort of stuff. You can go like, set a timer for 15 minutes and then boop, 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 boop. Pretty basic, but it's just so handy to have that, you know, in the background whilst you're cooking, and you don't have to think about it. Okay, so let's talk about books. Okay, so I've just got a selection of books. There are so many cookery, food books out there. You know, there's so many books these days that are connected to like some of my contemporary YouTubers and social media people that, you know, have managed to get these books. The problem is a lot of them are quite faddy, right? So what I like is, I like books that have like some real substance, that are either an interesting read or the recipes are going to be like golden. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a few that I really, really like, you know, they're not new, but, you know, c'est la vie, you know. So this, the legend, Mary Berry cookbook. This is a small one, a little cheap one, but the recipes in this you will use over and over again. Interesting one, Nick Frost. If anyone knows Nick Frost, you should know him. He is an actor from the Cornetto trilogy. He's a funny guy. And this is a recipe. This is a book just about the love of food, but it's packed full of recipes. Just a really fun read. Heston, you know, the legend. This is an old book. This is an old book, but it's an interesting one. It's all about In Search of Perfection, where he goes through and tries to perfect 8 recipes. It's just a really good read. It's not necessarily a recipe book, but it's just a really good book about food. Okay, it's something different, right? This is probably one of the more interesting of the kind of cookbooky ones that I've noticed in the last few years. Mirror, Soda, East. It just has a selection of different recipes from around Asia and those sorts of areas. Just really good, and it's like mainly vegetarian. I think it's all vegetarian actually, but I just really quite like that one, so I thought I would put that in, or the ones that I've had in recent years. Now, we spoke about fermentation. How about this classic? This is a big one, No One's Guide to Fermentation. If you've got any interest in fermentation, this is the one to read. And I think, like, I've had this for a few years, but I think it got a bit more popularity because it was spotted on The Bear. Okay, and if you've watched The Bear, you'll have seen that, you know, the guy there was trying to create some fermented recipes. So that's a decent one. And as I say, this is possibly a bit expensive because it's a chunky book, but you could pair it with a fermentation vessel or something to go with it. Right, let's just talk about like some gifts, some more like kind of traditional gifts or things that kind of seem like a gift. Okay, so a few years ago, what I did was I bought a small hamper and I filled it up with loads of different foodie type things. I got it for my folks and I absolutely loved it. Loads of sort of chutneys and sauces and vinegars and all that sort of stuff. And I did it freestyle. You know, I didn't go and buy some really expensive pre-done thing. As I say, I bought the little hamper thing off of Amazon for like, I don't know, 15 quid or whatever, it might have been eBay. And as I say, I just went around the shops and whenever I found something interesting, a little jar of something, didn't have to be expensive, that went into this basket. Might have been some little treats, some sweets, some crisps, some weird little drinks, or maybe like some cheap little alcohol things. Just so it filled up and ended up having about 20 different little bits and pieces in there, and it went down an absolute storm. And I keep thinking like I should do it again because it was one that went down well. And also, you know, a lot of thought has to go into it. It's not just buying one item, so people can appreciate that, right? So continuing with that, you've got booze. Just generic booze. People love booze, so you can use it. Now, obviously, like the old classic, what people like, you know, obviously like a rum, maybe like in like a decent bottle. Like, I know this is not anything fancy, but I've always kind of quite liked the bottle and the lid, and it kind of looks like it's more than what it is, you know, or, you know, just go for something that people like. You know, for me, JD Honey, I kind of go for that. You've also got champers. You know, again, doesn't have to be expensive. You know, this is just one that I've just kept the bottle for sentimental reasons. But you've also got in that vein, you've got like cocktails. So you've got cocktail shakers. You know, again, not very expensive. But what I'd say is try and get one that's kind of timeless. You get ones that have loads of like text and stuff like that, and they kind of look a bit cheesy. Whereas you get something that's just nice, clean, chrome, metal, whatever. And it will you can just sit on the side and it looks nice and elegant, even though it doesn't really cost that much. And again, you can pair it with like some alcohol or some bitters, something like this that go with it. You know, maybe some recipe book that goes with it, right? Because I always think like cocktails, you know, it's not too dissimilar to actually cooking because you're putting together various different ingredients to create something. Okay, and it's very good to help you learn and understand different flavors. Right, let's go on to like more homeware type thing. Storage containers that look pretty cool. So these ones, again, very, very cheap. You know, if you get a few of these, you know, I've got a variety of these for various different things. And like my cupboards are not tidy by any stretch of the imagination, but I think like I attain to be tidy, and I think these are quite cool, you know, for pastas and breadcrumbs and rice and sugars, all that sort of cool stuff. So that's pretty decent. Bowls and plates. Okay, so you can get some really cool plates now, right? So this is kind of like a ramen bowl that I really, really like. I use on a regular basis. This is one of the ones that I use in my videos for presentation because I just kind of quite like it. It's just, it looks good. It looks cool. I've only got one of these. You know, but it is pretty cool piece of kit. Likewise, you can find, if you go on like Etsy and places like that, you can find some quite unusual homemade, home crafted, small business type things. Again, these ones are ones that I found a couple of years ago that I absolutely love. And if you've watched my videos, you've seen this bowl over and over again, and probably the matching plate, just because they look really super cool. How about some salt and pepper shakers? It's the classic, you know, people give these probably all the time, different types. But these ones are actually from IKEA. These are from IKEA. And they're kind of generic. They cost basically next to nothing. You fill them up with anything you want. I've got salt and I've got pepper. But they are sharp. And they grind out so beautifully well. So much better than some of the ones you get that you and they're just difficult. How about some heat-proof products? Okay, so the first thing is you've got like these cork boards that you can use for anything. Again, these are so cheap, right? So you can bundle these up with a variety of different things that are going to come in useful. You've got some circular ones. How about your slotted spoon or your cooking spoon one that you can stick on the side of the hob, and then you just get your spoon, and you're not putting it, like often what I do is I actually put it on the grill of the hob, which is obviously not particularly good. How about, in conjunction, the old classic, the oven gloves? These are good because they're not connected like those old school ones, and you know, they've got silicone, so they're going to be really, really handy and really, really useful. How about some bread basket or a bread kit? These are super cool. It's a little bit fancy. You know, it's one of those things where I think it gives people ideas to try things out, which is always good with cooking. Try something new that they possibly wouldn't have done. Try some more advanced. But I actually think, you know, I'm going to create my own bread. That's pretty cool. You could obviously match this up with some ingredients, or maybe some yeast or whatever, or something specific, or even you can match it up with a suitable book. I'm going to talk about books, but you know, something, I've got a book, a bread book even, goes with a bread basket. Nice little gift. Right, okay, so let's peek behind that curtain and see how I create these videos and this channel with some ideas for gifts that are related to that subject, because so many people want to get involved with creating food type content, okay, because it is a really fun hobby. So you've obviously got a few things. You've got how you're going to record, the visuals, the audio, you've got lighting, and you've got some setup bits and pieces. So you could obviously use your phone. The cameras on these are pretty good. For me personally, I use a DSLR camera. I use the Canon 800D, and I have used this camera for now about 5 years, and it is great. I've taken it all around the world, taken photographs and videos, and it's relatively simple. It's got a flip up screen, so me standing here, I can look just to the right of the screen, and I can see the screen, and I can see that I'm in shot, all that sort of stuff. So that is pretty good. Okay, for audio, you will need, generally you're going to need some separate kit. Okay, so I've actually got the Rode Wireless Go microphone, and they're essentially two little blocks, one which I plug into the camera and one which I've actually got on a tripod just in front of me to pick up that, and that means that I can be quite far, okay, from the camera. Okay, it isn't like I've just got, I could mount something on top of the camera, but then it would be where the camera is. So this gives me the ability to kind of potentially move my microphone here, move it about. It gives me flexibility. That's what I like, and the sound is pretty good. I can come up close and it might sound a little bit better because I'm close to it. Okay. Right, so the next section is lighting. This is important because you want everything to be lit quite well. If you scroll back through my videos a couple of years ago, I was not using any additional light. I just had the ceiling spot LEDs up there, and I actually had the warm light spots. So if you look at my videos, they all look yellow. They all look yellow and not particularly great. So I have now got an Elgato key light. It's an individual one, and you can rotate the actual fitting. I'll show it on screen. It's pretty good. You can also go into an app and change the intensity of the light. I just have it on pure light because obviously, as you can see in this kitchen, there are no windows here to give you know, natural light, so to speak. So it's important to have some decent light. Now obviously you're going to want some kind of tripod to put these devices and things on. Obviously with my main camera here, I've got a traditional camera which comes up to about 5 feet in height, and you can obviously alter it. That's pretty useful if you've got a camera. But depending on your device, you can have other things. So I've obviously got a smaller one. This is just a tabletop one, so I can flip between the two. That's pretty useful. So this is a DJI gimbal. This is a smartphone one, so that you could, I'll put it on back to the front, but you can put your your smartphone on this, and this is actually electronic gimbal, this device. So you could set it up so that it follows you, okay, and it gives you smooth footage. This is quite a cool thing a lot of people like, and you'll probably see people that kind of go around, you know, I can switch this on and this would move around and do all sorts of stuff, right? It's not, I haven't charged it, right? But you know, you're simply walking around and they'll be going, and this, it will constantly be altering to make sure that it is nice and smooth footage. Likewise, you could put it on the desk and you can set it up on the app to follow you. So I could be like walking around here and the camera would move here and I'll move here and the camera would shift this way. Pretty cool kind of thing to utilize. Now also going back to the devices, you know, another cool little device actually is this one that I've used. I used this principally actually when I went abroad. This is the DJI Osmo, and it's a similar sort of thing where it's a camera and a gimbal in one. So you'll get footage, and this bit at the top here will maneuver depending upon, you know, how you move it, and it's a cool little feature. So this is quite a good thing, and a lot of people that, you know, like to record would really like this. This is actually not the version 2 because I've had it for a couple of years. There's actually a new number 3 now, which is super cool, which came out just after I bought the 2, obviously. So that's the end of my gift guide for people that like food. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, give up the thumbs up. If you've got this far, I really do appreciate it because it means that you've watched about 20 minutes plus of this video. Remember, there are links in the description box below, and if you buy anything through Amazon through those links, I get like a very measly percentage. But really, all that I ask from you is that you watch more of my videos, because that's what I want. I want to help grow the channel. By watching these videos, that is how the channel grows. So I hope you have had a great year, and I hope that next year is even better. So seasonal greetings, and see you later.